I'm delighted to be here today because we are doing extraordinary things in one day. We're producing an issue of the Drum, we're building cities, and now we are going to completely redesign the way our industry works in a day. And it can be done because you're already doing it. When the Drum approached me about speaking at the Drum Live, I was just blown away by the whole idea of this day, because what we are doing today is exactly what our industry should be doing in terms of changing the way it works. Real-time responsive, transparent, collaborative, community building. I'm all about communication through demonstration. And so what we're going to do in this session is I'm going to talk to you for about 25-30 minutes about the principles around which I think we should redesign our industry and the way we do business. These are entirely subjective. You are totally free to disagree with me. We can take it outside later. We can have fisticuffs in here. But I'm going to tell you what I think our future should be about. And then we're going to open it up to looking at all of the frustrations that you identified about your day-to-day working lives. And we are going to redesign those out of the way our industry works, and we're going to do that together. And we'll do that for about 25 minutes or so. And we'll make that a completely open, interactive discussion conversation, and then I'll wrap it all up with about 5 minutes of summarizing at the end. So the reason why redesigning the way we work is so important is because all around you in our industry and in our clients' industries, you will see the phenomenon that I call collaborative competition. Collaborative competition is when everybody in a sector competes with everybody else in the sector by doing exactly the same thing everyone else in the sector is doing. And this is a very dangerous scenario, because this is what allows true innovation and disruption to come in from the outside. Or, as this guy put it very well in the Harvard Business Review, if you align your strategies to what everyone else is doing, be sure a single business bullet will take you all down. And so what we're going to do today is look at how we redesign the business, how we redesign agency, how we redesign our business model, and how we redesign creativity. And there's a very fundamental reason why we need to redesign our business. And it's demonstrated through the millions of advertising messages that we all get every single day, which all of us are responsible for, and particularly by the ones within those millions of messages that go something like this. You can download this for free if you just agree to watch these ads. You can make these calls free from your phone if you just agree to receive these ads to it. Skip this ad, subtext, you know you want to. And my personal favorite, the pre-roll video announcement, only 15 more seconds, only 14 more seconds. We know it's torture. We know you're suffering. We know it's horrible. It's agony. Hang on in there. Only 12 more seconds, only 11 more seconds. What all of these messages are driven by, and what they communicate, is that advertising is a very bad thing. They communicate that advertising is a very bad thing, and that people therefore have to be bribed, blackmailed, persuaded, tricked, cajoled, and deceived into watching it. Years ago, I was at an industry conference in America, and I heard Mark Goldstein, back when he was the CMO of Fallon, give a talk. And he said in that talk, people hate advertising in general, but they love advertising in particular. And what he meant by that was, if you ask the man or woman in the street, so, what do you think of advertising? They'll go, oh, I bloody hate it. Gets me all my favorite shows, it's everywhere I go. But if you ask the man or woman in the street, what's your favorite ad? They'll go, oh, I really love that Nike ad. People hate advertising in general, but they love advertising in particular. We have to make people love advertising in general. We have to move from a focus on making good advertising to making advertising good. We have to make people believe, and we have to demonstrate that we can be a force for good if we want to have a future. But we can't do that without redesigning agency. And notice, by the way, I don't say agencies, I say agency. And what I mean by that is we have to redesign the way that we all do what we do. The reason for that is because you cannot do New World Order business from an Old World Order place. All agencies and all client companies are Old World Order places. Their systems and processes and structures are born of a time when the process used to be linear. So once upon a time in our industry, what you did was, first of all, you shot the big TV commercial. Then you shot the matching print ads. Then you did everything else, collateral, including that funny thing called a website. Today, everything's changed, but the systems and processes and structures still haven't. It doesn't actually matter how brilliant any of you think the Drum Live is. It doesn't actually matter whether any of the sessions you're participating in today are sparking amazing inspirational thinking in your brains. It doesn't actually matter what great, innovative, disruptive ideas any of you are having today as a result of everything Gordon and his team have built up for you. If you go back to the office tomorrow morning and you plug all this brilliance, all this inspiration and all that innovation and disruption back into the same Old World Order systems and processes, you'll get the same Old World Order crap out the other end. And so we have to completely redesign the way that we do business. We have to effectively blow it up and start again. Now, you're probably thinking, it's very easy for her to say that, stand up there and be really glib about this. Actually, doing that is a lot easier than you think. I have a lot of people coming to me for help and advice on career crises, midlife crises, startup problems, business venture problems, and I always ask them to do the same two things. And interestingly, they're the same two things you should do, whether you're a person who's lost your way or whether you're a business who's lost your way. The first thing is, identify what it is that you absolutely love doing, that you're passionate about. If you're in a job currently, I say to people, be ruthless. Identify everything in your job that you will love doing and strike from the record everything you hate doing. And quite often, when you do this exercise, when you focus in only on the things that you're passionate about, interestingly, those things are not necessarily numbers 1, 2, and 3 on your job spec. So, number 1, identify what it is that you love doing that you're passionate about. And then number 2, identify the conditions under which you most love doing it. So you might go, I love doing this, I'm passionate about this. I particularly love it when I only do it between these hours. Maybe you really love it when you only do it working with these kinds of people. Maybe you particularly love it only working for these kinds of clients. Maybe you really love it when you only do it from this one location or these 2 locations. And then design an opportunity, a job, a venture around those 2 things, because then it never feels like work. Because you're doing what you most love doing in the circumstances in which you most love doing it. And those are the same 2 principles on which you should redesign your business. As a business, as an agency, as a company, as a brand, identify what it is that is at your core, what you absolutely love doing, what you're passionate about, is the reason you were founded in the first place. Because companies, agencies, businesses, brands lose sight of that over time. They go, oh look, our competitors over there are doing this, we should do that too. Oh look, they added one of those divisions. Well, we should have one too. And that's what causes collaborative competition. Over time, you morph into something remarkably like everybody else in your sector. So as a business, identify what it is that you love doing, your reason for being, and then identify the conditions under which you are your best at doing it. And when you redesign and restructure your company around those 2 things, not only do you give yourself and your employees much happier working lives, it's enormously cost effective. You strip out whole layers of overhead and cost when you redesign and restructure around those two principles. When I started my venture IfWeRanTheWorld, which I'll come on to talk about, I said to my team, I want us to innovate in every aspect of how we design and operate this as a business venture as much as the actual web platform itself. Because I want us to design our startup around the working lives that we would like to live. And so I said to my tech lead, I want to design this platform so we can operate on a very lean core infrastructure. So that if, as we hope, one day, fingers crossed, it grows and scales, we don't have to grow and scale with it. I no longer want to run that kind of a company. And the reason I said that was because I spent years as an advertising agency CEO running the kind of company where, as you grew, and you won more clients, you had to hire more people, expand into bigger premises, acquire more resources. The moment there was an economic downturn, you were fucked. I never want to be in that position again. Looking at the numbers, making really hard choices. I designed my own businesses, so I'll never have to be. I demand extraordinary talent. I will only hire extraordinary talent, and so I'll work with extraordinary talent wherever I find it. Until recently, the rest of my team, small as it is, were not based in New York where I am. We had one person in Portland, one person in Seattle, one person in Montreal. We remote work. The Skype video call has transformed my working life, and it's free. We obviously come together at key nodes of the process. But what that means is we don't need offices. We don't need to carry those overheads. We work out of my apartment, their apartments, coffee shops, hotel lobbies. We've designed our business to be what we want it to be in a way that's very cost effective. And you can do that too. Literally ask yourself, how would I like to do business? And redesign the way you do business around that. And when you do that, it's enormously important to redesign the business model, to redesign the way you make money. And I say that because a lot of people either seem to think, this is our industry business model, this is the way we've always made money, this is the only way we'll ever make money, or they think there's a set number of business models out there, and we have to operate one of those. You absolutely don't. Your business model can be anything you want. The point for redesigning your business model is simply to ask yourself, how would I like to make money? Forget the industry model, which is broken irretrievably. Ask yourself, in an ideal world, how would I like to make money? And then design your business model around that. And I'm going to come on and talk to you about some things that make it a whole lot easier to completely redesign our business model. And out of all of this, then comes the opportunity to redesign creativity. And that's something we really need to do. One of the debates that I see playing out constantly, now more than ever, is that perennial debate in our business about art versus science. Oh, all this data stuff, that's science, that's rational. Nothing will ever trump art, emotion, creativity. Well, I believe it's not either or, it's both. Our future is about art and science, and that's because the new creativity is data-informed. And note, by the way, I don't say data-driven, I say data-informed. Big data represents big opportunity. We are now able to know more than we ever have before about what our audiences, our consumers want, think, feel, dream, purchase. And that gives us the opportunity to come up with, to design, to create completely new forms of creative product. But in order to do that, we have to do something very important indeed, which is that we have to humanize big data. Because big data is not statistics, big data is people. We have to humanize what we measure, how we analyze it, and how we gather it. We have to humanize what we measure because, very importantly, you are what you measure. This is a fundamental truth in life, just as much as in business. What you decide to measure yourself against as a person, what you decide to evaluate your growth, your development, your achievement against as an individual will decide your future as a human being. in the same way that what you decide to measure your brand, your business, your company against will absolutely determine the future of your brand, your business, your company. And so in a world where we no longer have industry-wide measurement standards, there is no Nielsen of the New World Order, you need to define your own. You need to identify what matters to you. You need to identify the future that you want to create for your business. You need to establish your own metrics. And you need to decide how you measure yourself against them. And you need to do that by completely rethinking and reviewing all of the measurements, all of the metrics that you've ever used in the past. So you need to humanize what you decide to measure. Then you need to humanize how you analyze it. Because as I said, big data is human. And I like to illustrate this point with an example from one of my favorite websites of all time, textfromlastnight.com. How many of you are familiar with Text from Last Night? Show of hands, please. Okay, guys, not nearly enough of you. Text from Last Night was started about 3 years ago now by a couple of students at the University of Michigan, who are both friends of mine. Its tagline is, remember that drunken text you sent last night? We do. So it's entirely user-generated and crowdsourced. It is your and your friends' drunken text messages from last night. And I tell everybody in our industry to go to textfromlastnight.com for 3 reasons. The first is that, as you would expect, and those of you already familiar know this site is screamingly, hysterically funny. You'll be at your laptop, on your phone, with tears running down your face, guaranteed. Secondly, it's what I call modern poetry. It's SMS's art form. And again, when you look at it, you'll know what I mean. But thirdly, at a much more serious level, Text from Last Night is an absolutely riveting socio-cultural snapshot of our times. You can extrapolate every possible theme of human behavior from Text from Last Night. The way men talk about women, the way women talk about men, binge drinking culture, the pornification of culture. I get a lot of inspiration from my other startup, Make Love Not Porn, from it. And so I want to share with you one of my favorite texts from this site, which absolutely demonstrates what I mean when I say we need to humanize the analysis of big data. And it's the one that goes, so let me get this straight. You would sleep with an uncircumcised guy whose name you didn't know, but you won't try the new shrimp taco from Taco Bell. That is the world we live in. And that's why you have to humanize how you analyze big data. We're the same old ridiculous, rational, emotional human beings we've always been. And then you have to humanize how you gather it. Because the new marketing reality is complete transparency. Today, everything that you do as a brand, as a person, is potentially in the public domain, courtesy of the power of the internet. And that makes a lot of people very worried about who's collecting what data about you and what they're doing with it. And so the way you need to approach this is, think about how in life you meet somebody you like. And this might be somebody that you meet and think, oh, you know, I can really be friends with this person. It might be a new colleague. You meet somebody you think, oh, I like this woman, this man, we could work really well together. Or it might be somebody that you're romantically attracted to. You think, I'd like to date this person. And so you like this person, and therefore you want to find out as much as you can about them. And so you begin opening up to them. You begin sharing information about yourself in order to encourage them to open up to you, to share information about themselves. And gradually you build between you a relationship of mutual trust, respect, love, affection, where both of you can see the benefit of what you are building, and until you reach that point of intimacy where what this person is feeling about you is, I want you to know me. That's the way to gather data. Open up as a brand first. Open up to your consumers. Demonstrate to them your openness and the benefit to them of sharing information with you. Show them the good things that transpire when they do that. Build a relationship of mutual trust and respect. And they will get to the point where what your consumers are saying to you is, I want you to know me. And then when you do that, you can make extraordinary creativity and creative products. And I want to talk about what I mean when I say redesign creativity and our creative output. And I'm going to talk about examples in 4 areas: action, personalization, notification, and transaction. Action. What do you want people to do? Now, that might sound like a truism, because obviously everything we do in our industry is geared at getting people to do something. But I don't mean action as a result of what we do, I mean action as what we do. Now, I freely admit that I'm biased. I believe that action is the future of our industry so strongly that I started a venture around it. I have a startup called IfWeRanTheWorld, which is co-action software that turns good intentions into action. It stems from, first of all, my observation as a very action-oriented person. The single biggest pool of untapped natural resource in this world is human good intentions that never translate into action. And then realizing there's another equally large and powerful untapped pool of resource, which is corporate good intentions. Because companies have good intentions too, but just like people, they find it really hard to find quick, easy, simple ways to act on them, importantly, in a corporate context, in ways that then make sense for and actively help drive their business. Because I believe the future of business is doing good and making money simultaneously, but not in the way companies currently do it, which goes, we make money here, and then we do good by writing checks to causes to clear our conscience over here. I believe in a future where you make money because you do good, where actually you have the opportunity to turn good intentions into action that benefits everybody. And so if we ran the world, if you like, if Facebook is the social graph and Twitter is the interest graph, I designed If Around the World to be the action graph. It's built around the concept of the micro-action, which is our atomic unit in the same way the tweet is the atomic unit of Twitter. A micro-action is the action equivalent of 140 characters or less. Incredibly small, simple, easy to do action, so easy to do, why won't you do it? And that's because I believe the business model of the future is shared values plus shared action equals shared profit. Financial profit and social profit. When brands and businesses come together with their consumers on the basis of values that you all share, which, by the way, is the most fundamental requirement for a good relationship in life as much as business, that you share the same values. And when you're then enabled to act on those values collectively, together, you can create impacts in the real world that benefit consumers, benefit society, and benefit the brand and its business. Most brands, at the moment, operate their marketing programs at the level of co-creation. They invite consumers to create content and to share it. I believe the future is co-action. Brands and consumers micro-acting together to create impacts in the real world that benefit everybody. And what that ultimately delivers is something that I call action branding, where you self-identify and self-express, whether you are a person or a brand, as I am what I do. I am the sum of my actions. So that's action. Personalization. This is the current consumer mindset. What I want, when I want it, where I want it, how I want it. You hear a lot of brands say, oh, we're utterly consumer-centric. No, they're not. They're not delivering truly against this mindset, and they're not delivering against this mindset where there is the ultimate expression of it, which is mobile. Now, when I say delivering on mobile, I don't mean sending ads to mobile. I mean delivering things of utility and value that will utterly delight consumers when they are delivered at the precise moment of what I want, when I want it, how I want it, where I want it. I'll give you one example of what I mean. What is the single thing that all of us spend the majority of our time on our mobile devices doing? Email. What is the single thing destroying the quality of life of all of us? Email. What if a brand solved the email problem? And what if a brand solved the email problem on mobile? Because I can tell you that there are a whole host of startups in Silicon Valley trying to solve the email problem, and they haven't. What if a brand with a heritage of email marketing solved the email problem? Because they owe it to us. The brand that did that would have our undying love and loyalty forevermore. Then notifications. Notifications used to be bad things, irritating, intrusive, interruptive. Not anymore. I can't take credit for this next soundbite. I read it years ago on somebody's blog. I wish I knew whose, because I'd love to credit them. But what we are doing, every time we refresh email, we refresh Facebook, Twitter, what we're really looking for is little pellets of love. Little affirmations that somebody likes us, that somebody thought about us, that somebody loves us. What if a brand owned notifications? What if a brand owned the delivery of little pellets of love in a way that utterly delighted your consumers every time they got one? And then transaction. And to explain what I mean here, I need to tell you about my other startup. So I date younger men, who tend to be men in their 20s. And through dating younger men, I realized about 7 or 8 years ago that I was encountering an issue that would never have crossed my mind if I'd not encountered it very intimately and personally, which is what happens when two things converge. When today's total freedom of access to hardcore porn online meets our society's equally total reluctance to talk openly and honestly about sex, the convergence of both of those factors results in porn becoming, by default, the sex education today in not a good way. And so I found myself encountering a number of, if you like, sexual behavioral memes. I went, whoa, I know where this behavior is coming from. And if I'm experiencing this, other people must be as well. And being a very action-oriented person, I went, I want to do something about this. So 5.5 years ago, I put up on no money a very basic, clunky website at MakeLoveNotPorn.com that posts the myths of hardcore porn and balances them with reality. So the construct is porn world versus real world. I had the opportunity to launch Make Love Not Porn at TED, and I took a deliberate decision to be very explicit in my TED talk because I knew that audience would not get this issue unless I was very straightforward about it. As a result, I am to this day the only TED speaker ever to utter the words "come on my face" on the TED stage, 6 times succession. The talk went viral as a result, and it drove an extraordinary response to Make Love Not Porn. And the most extraordinary thing was not simply huge amounts of traffic to the site from every country in the world instantly, so it went global without my doing anything about it, but every single day for the past 5.5 years, I've received thousands of emails to my Make Love Not Porn inbox, and they come from everybody. Young and old, male and female, straight and gay, from every single country in the world. And even before the actual website I put up, what amazes people is simply the fact that I stood on the stage in public, I talked about, and I'm doing something about, what everybody knows and nobody ever speaks about. And as a result, people feel able to tell me anything. They pour their hearts out to me on email. They tell me things about their sex lives and their porn-watching habits they've never told anybody else before. They write to me for advice. 15-year-old boys write for advice. 50-year-old women write for advice. It was the sheer cumulative impact of those emails arriving, day after day after day, that eventually began making me feel that I had a personal responsibility to take this venture forwards in a way that would make it more far-reaching, helpful, and effective. So what I decided to do was Make Love Not Porn is not anti-porn. The issue isn't porn. The issue is the complete absence in our society of an open, healthy, honest, truthful conversation around sex in the real world, which, if we had it, would, among many other benefits, also mean that people would then bring a real-world mindset when they view what is essentially artificial entertainment. So our tagline at Make Love Not Porn is pro-sex, pro-porn, pro-knowing the difference. And our message is simply talk about it. Talk about sex openly and honestly in the public domain, and talk about it openly and honestly privately in your intimate relationships. And so what I decided to do, therefore, was to take every dynamic that exists out there in social media currently and apply them to the one area that no other social media network or platform is ever going to go, sex, in order to make real-world sex and the discussion around it socially acceptable, and therefore just as socially shareable as anything else we currently share on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram. So 18 months ago, my team and I launched in public beta MakeLoveNotPorn.tv, which is a user-generated, crowdsourced video sharing platform that celebrates real-world sex. It's the .com site brought to life. Anybody from anywhere in the world can submit videos of themselves having real-world sex. We explain what we mean by that. It's not performative. This is not about performing for the camera, but just about capturing what goes on in the real world in all its funny, glorious, messy, silly, ridiculous, beautiful humanness. We curate, we watch every video to make sure it's real. We don't publish it if it isn't. And we have a revenue-sharing business model. Like Uber and Airbnb, we are part of the collaborative economy. You pay to rent and stream real-world sex videos, and 50% of that income goes to you, our contributor, or as we like to call you, our Make Love Not Porn star. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because my team and I fight a battle every single day to build this business. Every piece of business infrastructure any other startup can at least take for granted. We can't because the small print always says no adult content. It makes it very difficult to get funded. I can't find a bank anywhere in the world that will allow me to open a business bank account for a business that does what we do. We had to build our entire video streaming platform from scratch ourselves because services like Brightcove won't host adult content. Even something as seemingly simple as finding an email partner to send our membership emails out with, we got rejected by 6 or 7 who wouldn't touch us. And therefore, our single biggest operational challenge is putting a payments infrastructure in place. Because we're adult content, PayPal won't work with us. Amazon won't. None of the mainstream credit card processors will. I got so frustrated, I said to my co-founder and CTO, Corey Innes, we're trying to invent the future of porn. I want to talk to anybody inventing the future of money. I want to find the people as frustrated with the old world order system of finance, money, payments as we are, from a different perspective. Let's research every fintech startup out there, because those are the guys that we want to work with. So we researched the entire fintech landscape, and we discovered that the new world order of money still subscribes to old world order legislation. The small print still says no adult content. And so I had to go after the founders and the people at the heads of the companies to try and persuade them to work with us. But separate to our own battle, the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I am now ferociously interested in the future of money. And the only upside of that, because I engage every day in conversations with people about digital currency, digital cash, cutting-edge payment platforms, banking innovation, the only upside is that it's made me realize that the future of advertising is bound up with the future of payments in a way that I do not see our industry realizing sufficiently. And by the way, that was demonstrated by the surprisingly small turnout for the Bitcoin session just before lunch. In my explorations, which is how we come to be working with people like Ben Milne of Dwolla, which is the PayPal challenger, Patrick Collison of Stripe, which is the gold standard taking credit cards online. He loves us, his bank doesn't. Wells Fargo won't allow us to work with them. But one of the people I talked to in the same vein was a young guy called Sahil Lavingia, who is the founder of Gumroad. How many of you are familiar with Gumroad? Okay, you all need to be. Go to gumroad.com. What Gumroad does is Gumroad monetizes links. It's like Bitly monetized. What it means is that you can sell anything behind a link. You can sell a photograph, a blog post, a video. You could sell a piece of information. You could say to 50 of your friends, I know a really juicy piece of gossip about somebody we all know. And if each one of you pays me £1, you can access it. The reason that changes everything is because historically, in our industry, the way the model worked was brands, we on their behalf go, we'll engage you, the consumer, with our communication. We'll make you want whatever it is that we're selling, and we'll hope that you keep it in your head all the way to the point where you can actually buy it. Today, we can engage and transact simultaneously. We can engage and transact on mobile in that precise moment of what I want, when I want, where I want it, how I want it. And that changes everything. It's why I ask people today, what's your marketing business model? And I don't mean what's your brand's business model, what your company's business model. I mean literally, what is the business model for your marketing program? How will your marketing program make money? Because now it can. And so what all of this means is that the future is not advertising units, the future is advertising products. The future is things of utility and value that delight and surprise upon receipt. And it's fascinating how even the big tech companies don't realize this. Facebook's billion-dollar valuation is predicated entirely on what we all do, on advertising. And yet Facebook, with its resources and its funds and the best engineers in the world, still assumes that advertising is display, fundamentally, because that's what every manifestation of Facebook advertising is. There is huge opportunity in understanding this and acting on it. I began this presentation talking about the syndrome of collaborative competition. I believe the future is competitive collaboration. And what I mean by that is, when all of us in an industry come together and collaborate to make things better for all of us, on the premise of a rising tide floats all boats, that is what then allows each of us to be uniquely competitive off the top of that, by leveraging our own individual skills and talents. And that's exactly what a day like the Drum Live is all about. The opportunity for all of us here to competitively collaborate in a way that makes things better for each and every one of us. And a particularly fruitful collaborative opportunity is the future is madmen plus mathmen, art plus science, creativity plus technology. The interface between creativity and technology hasn't even begun to be leveraged in the way that it could be. Now, the way I phrased that slide leads me to one final point before we open this up. And for this point, I want to just speak to the men in the audience. Ladies, bear with me. I just want to talk to the men. Men. Men, it's enormously comfortable hiring people like you. It's very comfortable co-founding businesses with people like you. It's very comfortable working with people like you. It's very comfortable hanging out with people like you. If you want to own the future, you're going to have to be prepared to get uncomfortable. Because the future is gender equal, and working with women is uncomfortable. Because we're other. We have different insights, different mindsets, different perspectives, different worldviews. But out of that discomfort comes greatness. Because women ask the tough questions that you don't, in business and in life. What are you thinking? Where is this relationship going? Or in business, why are we spending money on that? Why does everyone in the room fall silent when this person starts talking? Women challenge the status quo because we are never it. If you want to do one thing that you can do immediately to set your company, your brand, your business on a more innovative and disruptive path, it's very simple. Just go back to your offices, take a long, hard look at your business, identify every single area that is all male and male-dominated, change that. Just doing that one thing will instantly set your business on a more innovative path. And by the way, everything I say about gender is also true of race, ethnicity, sexuality. Diversity drives innovation. Innovation is a result of many different mindsets, perspectives, worldviews coming together in constructive, creative conflict to get to a place that is better than where any one of us could have gotten on our own. The new creativity is female-informed. And this is particularly important in our business. Because today, women buy. Women are the majority of purchasers, the majority of influencers of purchase in every single product sector, including sectors traditionally thought to be male. I don't know the stats, I apologize for the UK on this front, but in the US, for the first time ever, today, more women hold driving licenses than men. Women are the majority purchasers of all new cars in the US, and they're the majority purchasers of all used cars. And yet, who is the American automotive industry still targeting all of its advertising at? So women buy and women share. Social media is simply a whole new methodology to do what we've been doing since the dawn of time, which is sharing the shit out of everything in a way that you men don't. Women are the sharers, the gossipers, the talkers, the recommenders, the advocates. In fact, I say to brands that think men are their target audience, talk to women. Because women will influence men more than men will influence other men. And yet, and again, I don't know the stats in the UK, but I'm sure they're very similar. In the US, 97% of all advertising agency creative directors are men. Only 3% are women. That's why there's an amazing conference in San Francisco in November called the 3% Conference. I recommend you all check it out and attend it. But that's why the new creativity is female-informed. It's not female-driven, by the way, but it's female-informed. My favorite quote of all time, in order to predict the future, you have to invent it. I'm all about inventing the future. Too many people think the future is something that happens without us, rolls us over in its wake. I'm all about decide what you want the future to be and make it happen. Because every single one of you in this room today has the opportunity to do that. Because trust me, nobody else is. So I want us to reinvent our industry together. And I hope I haven't taken up too much time talking, because now I want to fling it open to you guys. So, oh my God, I'm going to have to put my glasses on. So guys, we asked you to identify the things that most frustrate you about your day-to-day working process. I'm going to read these out, and I want you to listen to them, and then I'm going to ask you to highlight what you think the key ones are that we are going to workshop together to design out of the system now. So you said the things that most frustrate you are, right, cheap budgets, team structures, lengthy sign-off process, acronyms, long hours, trying to find good people, tech stack confusion, idiots, clients with no bollocks, assumptions, cold emails like cold calls, use of buzzwords incorrectly, time, agencies' lack of innovation, ex-creative directors, bald people. Someone's got a bit of a thing going on there. Clients changing their minds halfway through, doing admin rather than your true job, time, unclear and unrealistic briefs, god-awful feedback like, we want it to pop, can you make it pop? Celebrity endorsements have nothing to do with brand or product, technology failure, measuring ROI, pitch talk in everyday conversation, constant attempts at virtual reality, client ambition disconnects between businesses, not enough time, salesman, clients, briefs, very all-encompassing, those two, budgets, lack of follow-up, meetings about meetings, sense of overwhelmedness, impossible to stay up to date on developments, pace and type, return on investment, too many stakeholders signing off ideas, jargon, transparency, moving goals, unnecessary process, over-confusion, too complex, and a number of these, and pointless emails when picking up the phone and speaking to the recipient will be quicker and better. There are some recurring themes within that. Everybody, what do you think, out of all of those, what do you think the most frustrating issue or issues are? Anybody?
Clients with no bollocks.
Okay, clients with no bollocks, right? Okay. Well, do we agree? Show of hands for people who want to design clients with no bollocks out of the system. Okay, enough people. Okay, so who's done that? Who has actively tried to do that, and who has helpful suggestions for everybody on doing that?
Well, in a sense, because I was going to say more risk.
Do turn up and be loud.
I was going to say more risk, but no bollocks. Simon. Oh, no, Dave. Said better. So as part of creative work is to not look in the same area in which I'm doing work for. So if I'm doing cars, I don't look at other car ads. Yep. Because then you're just creating exactly the same thing. And to try and educate clients about, they always want to stand out. It's the latest. We want to stand out. Yep. Does this have standout, cut through on this? Nonsense. It's, well, do something that isn't like everyone else in your sector, and then you will stand out. And it's just about educating clients to do that. It is hard, but you need more people at the top to, I hate to say drive because I know you hate that word, but to kind of get them to understand that and then work with them. Instead of doing the classic ad agency, go away, come back, show something, get feedback, go away again, come back, is actually to work with the client. You'll get a lot further. That's just my input on it.
Great, okay, and there was somebody else here who had a suggestion. Yep, over there, yep. Pass it down.
in a way, it's to try and extend that, which is actually to go client side. So I was an agency head and a managing partner. Now I work for the client, and I make the client brave because I understand how the agencies work.
Great. There's a suggestion over there. We need to do a bit of... pass the mic that way, guys. Shout.
So I think if you've got clients with no bollocks, it takes agencies with bollocks to start with. In as much as I'm from business to business agency, we have a very clear go, no-go strategy with clients. So we actively say no to clients. And I think if that culture was a little bit more prevalent, and I'm not saying it's easy, actually those clients that frankly are a pain at the backside, if less of us said yes to them, so surely that problem starts to diminish by working together to try and solve the problem.
Yep. Yep, there's a suggestion over here. Loudly.
I think you remember interviewing with an agency a few years ago that said, well, what we do is we say to our clients, you have to make a shift 30% in whatever it is we do. We have to change 30% of the mix, otherwise we won't keep you. So it made, and I don't know whether the agency is still going, it would be interesting to know, but I thought that was an interesting thought.
So guys, coming out of this discussion, because I live my own philosophies, everything in life and business starts with a micro-action. Everything we're going to discuss in this session, we're going to give you micro-actions to take away and do, because lots and lots of cumulative micro-actions result in really big impacts. So based on the terrific input we've just had, micro-action number 1, clients with no bollocks, have the conversation about, talk about the work when there is no work. So to your point, engage with your clients when the stakes are very low. Before you enter the creative development process, before there is work on the table, ask them what they consider great work. Find out, you might be really pleasantly surprised at what your clients cite when it's not about what the competition is doing and about what you're specifically developing. Find out what they consider great work. Have that conversation, whether it's a meeting or over dinner or an away day. Share what you think is great work and establish parameters that then feed into the development process. And by the way, I'll be frank about this. When I was working on the agency side, I would say to my team, and capture everything that's said that meeting in writing, because we are going to quote that back to the client when we present the work. So through the course of your relationship, through the year, when your client highlights something that is work they love, when they say something about the kind of work they want, capture that and be able to quote them back to themselves at key points. But the key thing is, talk about the work when there is no work. The second micro-action that I'm going to advocate, because this is something that I believe very strongly in, is one of the quickest ways to make people think differently about something is to change the language around it. Now, I have this conversation both in an ad industry context and in a tech startup entrepreneur context as well. Because one of the things that people are very fond of saying in the tech world, and also in the ad world, is, we want to celebrate failure. Fail fast. It's good to fail. And that's all very well, but I say don't say that, because fail and failure are still bad words with bad connotations. Nobody likes the sound of fail and failure, in the same way that risk is a bad word. And by the way, it's a bad word not only on the client side, but for internal discussions on the agency side as well. Change the language. Don't say fail, say learn. We need to learn fast. How did we learn on this project? And that's just one example. Find a different language for being brave, for taking risks, for potentially failing. And when you find language that is more positive and constructive about what you're doing, that can also change attitudes. And then the third micro-action, and this is what this gentleman over there was alluding to about pushing back. Our single biggest obstacle on Make Love Not Porn is the social dynamic that I characterize as fear of what other people will think. when I'm trying to raise funding, when I'm trying to find a business partner, it is never about what the person I'm talking to thinks, because when you understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, nobody can argue with it. It's always about their perceived fear of what other people will think. Fear of what other people will think is the single most paralyzing dynamic in business and in life. You will never own the future if you care too much what other people think. And I'm saying that in the context of, do not worry about what other people think, as in your clients. Talk about what you believe is right, create what you believe is right, present what you believe is right. I sit on a thing called the Creative Review Committee for the Advertising Council in the US. The Ad Council brokers public service campaigns. And our job in the Creative Review Committee is it's made up of creatives, digital people, account men. Our job is to help make the work that comes out of the Ad Council and the agencies that partner with them great. And we review it at 3 stages: strategy, creative work, and final rough cuts and finished work. And I find sitting on the CRC fascinating because in the course of something like 15 years doing this, I have seen virtually every agency in America present, and I've seen how they present. And one of the things I see all the time is agencies presenting 3, 4, 5 ideas, 3, 4, 5 campaigns. And we always say to them, which one do you believe in? And because we quite often review the work before it goes to the client, the brand that's partnered with the Ad Council, we're able to say, take those other 2 off the table. We believe this is fantastic, just present this. Do what you believe in, and don't worry about what other people will think. That's another microaction. So clients with no bollocks. Okay, what else is a huge issue, guys? What's really pissing you off? What's really frustrating you? Aha, timesheets, right. Show of hands, how many people are pissed off with timesheets? Okay, that's my point about redesign the business model. The enormous irony of our business is that for our clients, a bad idea costs exactly the same as a good one. That's utterly ridiculous. People value you at the value you seem to put in yourself. And our industry has colluded in its own devaluation for too long. So in that context, who here doesn't operate with timesheets and have a different way of operating their business model? Right, yes?
We trust our guys.
Loudly.
We trust our guys to do the work. If it's not being done, then you can tell, because it's online, it's search, it's easy to see. The clients can see what's happening.
And so how do you charge? And what's your business model?
We charge on a fixed fee for our time.
But it's still based on time?
It's still based on time, but there's trust involved. So.
Right. So at least don't put the agency through doing timesheets.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I work at the same agency. We don't press that time onto our employees, so we give each client as much time as they need. So although every employee has certain clients that have a certain fee associated with them, if it's a smaller client that's only paying a smaller fee, that doesn't mean they're not going to get as much time as some of the bigger clients who are paying a bigger fee put into them, if that's what the account needs to make it work. And I think that's a good thing about trusting our employees, to know how much time they need to put in to actually make the campaigns work.
We need to start pushing back against all of that, because to your point about not getting paid on time, as I'm sure you've seen, and you're probably encountering this in the UK because the clients are global, we now have an appalling rash of clients going, we are insisting on 90-day payment terms. And that is out-fucking-rageous. Don't do that, industry. Because when you capitulate to that, many smaller suppliers go out of business. The people that you're meant to be paying go out of business. Our industry has to take a stand, it has to do things differently. And so you need to redesign the business model. And one of the things I would really urge you to think about, okay, I've got 3 minutes. I'm going to end with one thing that I just really want to communicate to you. I want you also to go out of here thinking differently about how you make money. And I want to paint for you the fact that I want to show you what I call the let's just do it for the money downward vicious spiral. So this happens when you have pitched a piece of business. And in the course of pitching for that piece of business, you and your agency have realized that there is not a good cultural fit with this client. You know that if you were to work together, it wouldn't go very well. But, shocker, all of a sudden you get the phone call that tells you you've won the pitch. And so you have that meeting in the boardroom with the management team where you go, do we take this business? And that's the meeting where somebody utters those fateful little words because, you know, things are tough, you're in recession, the numbers looking really bad, you're going to have to lay people off, and somebody goes, let's just do it for the money. This is what happens when you just do it for the money. You begin working with this client, and you're quite right. You're not a good cultural fit. And as a result, you go through, because we all know that the work that wins pitches doesn't actually run. You're back into creative development. And so you go through, at a conservative estimate, say, 8 rounds of creative development and 6 rounds of focus groups. And by the end of that process, you have used up all of the tiny margin that you had on your fee proposal. And so you are already in the red. And because you're not a good cultural fit with that client, where you've ended up at the end of that process is with work that neither of you is very happy with. But you have to end up somewhere because by that time you're right up against deadlines. You're up against a sales conference, you're up against the board meeting, you're up against the air date. And so you have to end up with work, and so you end up with work that none of you are very happy with. And that work runs. And so that work is out there, and it's not doing what it should do for you, which is act as business development. It's not work that is so bloody great that other brands are looking at it going, oh my God, get me the agency who did that. It's just not very good. And at the same time, your people are utterly burnt out by this horrible process they've just been through. And so they begin leaving in droves. And so now you're into the cost of headhunter fees, management time, interviewing. And when you hire people to replace the people who left, you're usually into higher salaries. And the rest of the agency is enormously demoralized and demotivated. And at the same time, that work that isn't very good is out there and it's not performing. So it's not very good. So it's not selling product, and the client's very unhappy, and the client fires you. And so you are now massively in the red, and you don't have the business, and you don't have good work that got you more clients. And by the way, when I give this talk to an audience like this, clients, this is also what happens when you just do it for the money. Because in the pitch, you didn't feel this agency was a good cultural fit either, but their fee proposal came in at the lowest. And the agency you really liked was like 50% more expensive. And somebody on your side said, let's do this for the money. And now you're into the cost of running another agency review. You've got work that didn't work. Your sales are down. This is what happens when you just do it for the money. Do not do it for the money. Redesign the business model, because the old way of making money isn't making money. I'm sorry, I think I probably talked too much up front, and so we didn't have as long to spend. But please, everything starts with a micro-action. Go away, think, what are the micro-actions I can do to redesign the way we do business? And again, test them out. Find a small project, find a bite-sized chunk of something, redesign the way you do that, redesign the way you charge for it, gain proof of concept, traction, use it to show that you can take that out into the rest of your company and make it work differently. So please, all of you, go out there and redesign our industry because you can. Thank you.